Welcome to Beyond the Open Door. I am your host, Domina, and you have entered a safe and sacred space. I'm sounding a little somber. It's not intentional, it's in the morning, Saturday morning, when I'm recording this, and my husband's still upstairs sleeping, so I'm trying to be not as animated. And yet, I've got this feeling on me, and I just need to voice it. So please bear with me. In this, with our current climate that's going on right now, I don't know how you're feeling about everything. I don't know where your headspace is with all this. I don't know. But I have been silent because I am so enraged within myself. And I don't want to put out a video and start spouting off, and then I've got to take it down because maybe I go too far. But I can't stay quiet anymore. And I'm not one to get on and be political. I'm not one to get on and say this side against that side or that side against this side. I don't, that is not the intention of my channel. My channel is for me to just come on and share my journey on this path, what led me here, my experience while I'm here, and hopefully my growth as I move forward. But even in this, I have not, and I don't want to say I've come to realize, because that's not true. What I think I need to say is I have to acknowledge that, and I think that's why the last video I put up about asking, is your practice your crutch, or your witchcraft your crutch? Because I feel like, and again, this is me ranting just to get it out of my spirit. I feel like, no, not feel, I'm acknowledging that witches, occultists, sorcerers, maguses, sages, gurus, whatever term we're all walking under. At the end of the day, we are people. That's it. At the end of the day, we're people. And while we put these titles or these descriptors on ourselves, in the core of our existence, we are people. Now, why am I saying this? Because there are some channels that I was subscribed to because their information that they were sharing. I'm fairly new on this path, about 1.5 years in, so I'm fairly new on this path. Learning a lot within this 1.5 years, 2 years. But there were some channels that I was subscribed to because the information that was being shared was fascinating to me, especially this left-hand path, fascinating to me. And when you're one that's still peeling off the onion of Christianity and the dogma and all those untruths that you're finding out, it was just fascinating to hear the other side of the story. And for many of us who are new and we're trying to learn and we're trying to understand and we're trying to get a grasp and a grip and really understand this is who we were from the beginning, but we were taught to let that go, put that down, hide that, bury that, because this is the way. You know what I'm saying. Um, and then when you come up from underneath the ground and you start, dusting all that dirt off of you because the true you have been buried so long, you don't know how to operate. So you are looking and you're grasping and you're trying to understand. You're trying to make sense of it all. And as you're doing that, you listen to this voice and you listen to that voice, and it sounds marvelous because it's pretty much everything that you were taught not to listen to, not to pay attention to, not to gravitate towards. Because if you do, your soul has a destiny. And it's not the destination that they were telling you that you have to strive and sacrifice for. But as I'm listening, I'm starting to hear some of the same kind of sentiments, and I'm starting to see some of the same kinds of hypocrisy that I heard and saw in the church. And I'll tell you what really brought this out for me this week. If you're alive, you've heard that the women dealing with this Epstein case have come out, and they are saying that they want all the files open, and they're going to tell their story. They're not going to hide anymore, and they're not going to. Basically, they're going to take matters into their own hands, and they're going to spill the tea on who was where, and those secret people who everybody pretty much has an idea of who they are, who they were, who they are, who was there. Good for them. I think it's time for all of us to stop being silent. But in the midst of that, then they started being interviewed after the press conference. They started being interviewed, and one of the women said who she voted for. And it just blew my mind, because I could see if she voted for the person the first time around when he got in. But this is the second time around, and she voted. She, who was one of, they don't want to call them victims. She was a victim as a child. She's a survivor because she's made it into adulthood and she's trying to move forward with her life. But there's still that PTSD that she's experiencing. But with the documented facts and the convictions and the lies and the truth that this person has exhibited time and time again. Nobody should be surprised. And yet, with all those facts, when there was a woman standing and telling the whole world who this person is and what this person would do, and you going through what you have gone through and have been living with what you have been living with for all these years, still made a conscious decision to vote for this person, knowing the history, knowing, and not just the history, but the facts. Let's keep it at that. This isn't about hearsay. Knowing the facts you have yourself, and the facts that the world knows because it has been made public, and you still make a conscious decision to vote for this person. Blows my mind. And everybody's pouring out their heart, as we should. If you are a victim, if you have been mistreated, yes, you should stand on the side of justice. But you wanting justice and still voting for the perpetrator makes no fucking sense to me. And then some of these channels that I was subscribed to, one of them, after the election, actually put on a t-shirt with the person's name on it. And another one was blasting the opposing side and speaking and it was still this patriarchal kind of mindset. It was still this women need to know their place, and then this woman of color, who the hell does she think she is? And it just blows my mind, and it takes me back to my ancestors. Knowing the fight that they had to fight just to survive one day at a time, and all the injustices under this patriarchal system, under this supremacist system. And to, excuse me, and to see and hear these things continually be expressed verbally, out publicly, proud and loud. It reminds me that I got to keep in the front of my head, Christian, non-Christian, atheist, occultist, witch, pagan, whatever term. At the end of the day, we're all just people. But we're bringing that toxicity, we're bringing that same mindset into our practice, just like the Christians are bringing it into the church. Nobody is better than the other. So stop talking about the church and how hypocritical they are, and how they stand up in the pulpit and they preach this, this, and this, and yet in your coven, in your dark temple, in your love and light space, you still have the same attitude. You just have a different title on your head. You just have a different cloak that you wear. And I say, if you are not fighting for humanity, yes, in the U.S. we've got this democratic system where you're either labeled this or you're labeled that. It's crumbling. And guess who's allowing it to crumble? We the people. Because our heart, the heart of this nation has finally been revealed. Openly and honestly been revealed. So all the fighting that was done and all the marching that was done back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and all that hard work, all those blood, sweat, and tears, all those lives, and dare I say, all the fighting that's been done since we've been here. I'm making it specific to people of color because I'm a woman of color. All the fighting that we've done, and yet even our stupid asses, I'm saying it, even our stupid black asses are falling for this shit. Why? Because we're truly afraid to stand for what's right. We want to stand for money. And I have nothing against having money. I work hard every day to have some in my bank account. That's not my issue. But if you are sacrificing your integrity so that you can be on the right side of some fool that doesn't give a shit about you, you are a disgrace to the ancestors who fought. You're a disgrace to the ones who didn't even make it over here because they would have rather died in the sea than to come over here and lose their identity. I was in a mandatory meeting this week. Monday was the holiday. Tuesday we had an all staff mandatory meeting. I'm a state employee and a supervisor, and so all of our staff and all the supervisors, we were in this mandatory meeting, and we were going through this so-called training, and there was a piece of the training that was being brought out, and the interpretation of what was being said I didn't agree with. And when the person who was saying, oh, do we all understand? Are we all on the same page? And you should have seen all the heads that were nodding and all the voices that said yes. And I couldn't sit there. At first, I wasn't going to say anything. And I couldn't stand it anymore. I said no. And I said it. I said no. And when the person who was standing in front of us heard a no, they wanted to know who said it and why. And I sat there and explained myself. I wasn't the only one thinking that, but I was the only one who could not sit there and allow that foolishness to be said. And I gave my reasons for why I disagreed with it, why I thought that that interpretation was incorrect, with respect. But this person, because they're over us, thinks that their word is the last word. And I wasn't going back and forth. I just made my point clear. No, that is not what it's saying. No, that is not how that is not how I see that. And a couple people during our lunch break came up to me. And they're not on my team. They're on a different supervisor's team. Came up to me and said, "I agree with you. I see it the same way that you see it." I was the only person in the room to verbalize that, and the only supervisor to verbalize that. I'm not one to look for confrontation and be combative. That's not me. That's not my style. I go to work to do my job so I can come home, get my paycheck, and live my life. But I cannot consciously sit there and not say anything when I know it is not right. Just because you are my superior. And I don't want my people under me to have that kind of attitude. Let's have the conversation. We can agree to disagree, but let's have the conversation. Don't just sit there and take what I say as gospel. Because in our job, it's all about the safety and well-being of children. So we should have some conversation. We should have some back and forth. Because at the end of the day, that's our task. We have been tasked to monitor and regulate facilities and programs to make sure children are safe. And if we lose focus of that, and our main focus becomes the person in front of us who has an ego issue, the children suffer. And we as witches, occultists, whatever, when we lose sight of the people to side with foolishness and mayhem against other people for the sake of power, for the sake of money, for the sake of ego, for the sake for fear of losing power. Let's put it on the table. for fear of losing power, for fear of admitting that somebody else is better than me and has done this better than me and can do it better than me in their sleep, for fear that nobody's going to see me anymore, that nobody's going to listen to me anymore, that nobody's going to hold me in high regard anymore. That's a scary place to be. And we're so caught up in our ego that we can't see that that's how we're operating. And then one person in office who has degraded women, who has harassed families of children who were killed in school shootings, calling it fake and calling it and saying that really didn't happen. And these people are still grieving today without their children, who they've had to put in the ground by the hands of some maniac, now all of a sudden wants to stand on the side of justice. And I'm sorry, those who are applauding this person, those who are saying, I'm not agreeing with everything that this person has said before, but at this time they're staying on the right side of justice. Fuck that. And you're still a sheep that's asleep. Because if you think, okay, I'm not judging the person's intention. And I'm not saying that people can't change. But what I am saying is, you've shown me years of who you are. And you think in one little act, I'm going to forget all that and shake your hand? No, ma'am, no, sir. I will proceed with caution. And I love the boxing analogy. You are to protect yourself at all times. All times. That's why we cleanse. That's why we do our ritual baths. We are to protect ourselves at all times. We are never supposed to be comfortable or complacent just because nothing has happened yet. We are to protect ourselves at all times. And yet we forget that very simple rule when it comes to our mundane lives. I can get along with everybody. That doesn't mean I trust your ass. I can get along with you to get the job done. That doesn't mean I'm inviting you to my house for dinner. That doesn't mean after work I'm going to spend my personal time with you over drinks. No, no. You are simply an end to a means because the job needs to get done. But don't think for a second that I don't know that if the opportunity arises for you to throw me under the bus, that you won't take it. Because people are people, regardless of the title, regardless of the path. And I think we all need to start remembering that. Do we want to see people in a good light? Of course we do. Of course we do. But when you show me the truth of yourself, I am not going to turn a blind eye to it. When you give me an inkling of truth about yourself, that is what I really need to pay attention to. Not your smile, not the accolades you give, but that little glimpse of truth about you. That's what I need to pay attention to. And I need to protect myself at all times. I think I've gotten at least the surface off my chest. I could go on for hours, but I hope you get my point. We all need to check our hearts. I'm going down this left-hand path, but that's not just a hex and curse. I am going down this left-hand path because I'm really getting to know myself for the first time in my 60 years of life. And I want to leave out of here way better than I started. So thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for hanging on if you hung on this long. Have a great weekend. Have a great week ahead. And I'll see you next time. Peace and blessings to you all.